Jax had always liked moving into new places. There was something about a blank slate, the walls untouched, the floors clean, the faint smell of fresh air from the recycling system that made him feel like he could start over. But as he pushed open the door to his new apartment on the Orvex orbital station, he realized that some things never changed. Across the narrow corridor, the faint hum of machinery and occasional clatter announced the presence of his new neighbor. Perfect, Jax muttered under his breath. He had moved here to escape the constant chaos of the lower decks, not to gain a front-row seat to a daily construction project. The apartment itself was small but cozy. A modest living area with a panoramic view of the asteroid field outside, a tiny kitchen, and a bedroom that barely held his bed and a small desk. He set his luggage down and exhaled, letting himself enjoy the quiet moment. But it didn't last long. A low rumble shook the walls, followed by a sharp clanging. Jax froze mid-step. Another thump, then a mechanical whir. His eyes darted toward the shared wall. "Oh, come on," he muttered. He didn't have to wait long. A rhythmic pounding continued for the next hour, accompanied by strange, high-pitched squeals. Jax realized that his neighbor was conducting some kind of experiment. Judging by the vibration and the odd sounds, it wasn't just a small project. It was a full-scale experiment with machines, chemicals, or some kind of alien device. The last straw came when his cup of coffee trembled on the edge of his table and spilled across his work notes. Jax stomped to the wall and shouted, "Hey! You're the most annoying neighbor!" There was silence for a moment. Then a smirk spread across the face of a figure who appeared on the other side of the corridor. She leaned casually against her doorframe, arms crossed, eyes gleaming with amusement. "Why can't men take a hint?" she replied, her voice coming through a translator device that altered the strange tones of her native language into something he could understand. Jax blinked. "Oh, what?" She smirked again. "A hint. I've been trying to warn you, but humans don't seem to notice subtlety." He opened his mouth to argue, but realized she was already gone, stepping back into her apartment. The door closed with a soft click. Jax's frustration boiled. He had expected the usual human neighbor complaints, maybe a grumpy old man or a loud party. But a smug, smirking alien with a superior attitude? That was new. He sat down and ran his fingers through his hair. "Great," he muttered. "Just great. My new neighbor is literally her own species' definition of annoyance." Despite the irritation, Jax couldn't help but notice how competent she looked. Everything in her small doorway seemed perfectly in place, organized in a way he suspected only a mind trained for precision could achieve. His curiosity piqued. He decided to investigate. The next day, Jax tried to get a look without being noticed. He peeked through the narrow corridor window and saw her at work. Her apartment was a laboratory of sorts, filled with machines that whirred, sparkled, and rotated with mesmerizing precision. Small drones hovered and darted around the room, moving components from one place to another with incredible accuracy. Jax realized that she wasn't just a neighbor, she was a scientist. Maybe one of the most brilliant minds he had ever seen. And clearly, she had no interest in making things easy for him. As he watched, one of the drones dropped a small vial, and it skittered across the floor with a soft clink. Lyra, because he had caught her name on a package that floated by her door earlier, simply reached out a clawed hand and caught it mid-air without even glancing. Jax frowned. Humans don't normally get to see that level of skill every day. Later that evening, he tried to focus on his own work, but the vibrations continued. He attempted to adjust his furniture, add padding, and even close the windows, but nothing worked. Each thump, each strange squeal, made him more anxious. Finally, unable to take it anymore, he marched back to her door. He rapped sharply, hoping to get her attention before she vanished again. Lyra opened the door, just as calm and smirking as before. Back so soon? She asked. You have no idea how annoying you are, Jack said bluntly. Do you even realize how hard it is to work with constant that? He gestured vaguely at the wall. She tilted her head, curious but unbothered. I realize, yes. But I also realize that humans tend to exaggerate. Perhaps you just need to learn patience. Patience? My coffee almost drowned in your machines, Jax exclaimed, feeling his frustration boil over. Lyra raised an eyebrow. Ah, and yet you complain. Typical human. Jax threw up his hands. Typical human? You're the one causing all this. You. He paused, realizing his words weren't likely to convince her. And she wasn't listening to him. Instead, she stepped aside, as if inviting him to look. If you really cared, you could observe, learn, maybe even help. But humans rarely take the initiative. Jack stared at her. That wasn't the response he expected. Usually, neighbors either apologized, denied everything, or escalated into yelling matches. But she challenged him. And strangely, that challenge sparked something in him. Over the next few days, Jax found himself alternating between irritation and fascination. Every time he thought of complaining, he caught himself watching instead. Lyra's experiments became a puzzle he wanted to understand. Why were the drones moving in such precise patterns? What was the machine she tinkered with at night, glowing softly? And most importantly, why did she seem so indifferent to the chaos she caused? One night, unable to sleep, he hovered near the doorway again. He noticed something odd. The machines weren't just working, they were coordinating. Each drone seemed to anticipate the movements of the others, almost as if they were alive. Jax's curiosity overpowered his annoyance. He reached out and tapped gently on the shared wall, mimicking a rhythm. To his surprise, one of the drones responded, pausing in midair as if acknowledging him. Jax froze, then tapped again, slightly faster. The drone followed. He smiled, a spark of excitement running through him. Maybe this wasn't about being annoyed, it was about communication, about understanding a mind completely different from his own. The next morning, Lyra opened her door to find Jax waiting with a small device of his own, making a simple tool that could help her stabilize some of the machines when they overreacted. She looked at it, then back at him, clearly impressed but refusing to show too much emotion. You made this? She asked, voice calm but tinged with curiosity. I thought it might help, Jax said, unsure if he had just crossed a boundary. Lyra tilted her head, studying him. Then she smiled, not smug, not teasing, but small and genuine. Perhaps you are less irritating than I thought. Jax grinned, feeling a strange sense of victory. For the first time, he realized that being a neighbor wasn't just about surviving next to someone. It was about understanding them, about learning, and strangely enough about proving that humans could keep up in ways aliens didn't expect. That night, as he lay in bed listening to the hum of the station, he realized that this wasn't going to be a typical move-in experience. He had a neighbor who challenged him, irritated him, and, perhaps, would teach him more about the universe than any training program ever could. And deep down, Jax was ready for it. The day began like any other on the Orvex orbital station. Jax had grown used to the faint hum of machinery, the occasional flicker of lights along the corridor, and, of course, the unpredictable sounds coming from Lyra's apartment. But today, there was a different tone in the air, a quiet tension he could feel even through the walls. As he made his way to the small communal kitchen, he noticed that the usual chatter of alien residents was subdued. The four-limbed Zyrene, usually gliding gracefully along the corridors, moved faster than normal, their eyes flicking nervously toward one section of the station. Jax frowned. Something was happening, and it wasn't small. Back in his apartment, the vibrations had started again, stronger than ever. The walls rattled, and a soft, unusual hum came through the floor. Jax's curiosity overrode his annoyance this time. He grabbed his utility bag, a small pack of tools, sensors, and other gadgets he had brought along, and stepped toward Lyra's door. He knocked, and as expected, she appeared, calm and precise as ever. Her hands tucked behind her back. "You're early today," she said, her voice as smooth as the metallic walls around them. "I could say the same for you," Jax replied. "Your machines are acting up." Lyra's eyes flicked toward the ceiling, then back at him. "It is not the machines. It is me," she said, cryptically. "Or rather, one small error. But errors can become complicated." Jax's brows knitted. "Complicated? How?" Before she could answer, a loud alarm echoed through the corridor. Red lights flickered, casting an urgent glow. Jax's stomach sank. The Zyrine authorities were usually slow to react, especially when one of their own was involved. But this alarm wasn't for civilians, it was a warning for the entire station. Lyra's eyes sharpened. "Containment breach," she said simply, almost as if reading from a manual. Jax froze. He had heard about containment breaches before they were dangerous. Chemicals, gases, or experimental energy could leak into the station, and human residents had very little experience dealing with alien technology of this scale. Panic began to rise in the corridor, and the Zyrine residents quickly moved toward the exits, leaving human sections unusually tense. Lyra glanced at Jax. "This will not be handled well by the station authorities. I suggest we act." Act how?" Jax stammered. "I'm just a human." She raised an eyebrow. "Exactly why you may succeed." Jax stared. "Excuse me? You humans do not follow protocol well. You improvise. You find unusual solutions. And sometimes, those solutions work better than logic alone." Jax felt a spark of pride. It was strange to hear an alien acknowledge human ingenuity. He nodded. "Okay. So, we improvise. What's the situation?" Lyra stepped aside, gesturing him into her apartment. Inside, the room looked like chaos. But there was a method to it. Small drones hovered in precise patterns, some carrying vials, others scanning consoles. A translucent energy field flickered in the center, a containment bubble, struggling to hold something inside. Jax could sense it, vibrating in the floor beneath him, like a trapped creature trying to escape. "The field is weakening," Lyra explained. "If it fails, the release could... well, the station is not equipped to handle it." Jax took a deep breath. He scanned the room. Ordinary human tools were useless here, but he noticed patterns in the drone's movements. They moved rhythmically, responding to energy fluctuations. Perhaps if he could mimic their signals or create a small stabilizing pulse, the bubble could hold longer. "Do you have anything like a portable stabilizer?" he asked. Lyra shook her head. "All standard equipment is compromised. Only improvisation will work. All. Lyra. All. All. All." Jax's mind raced. He grabbed his toolkit and began assembling a small device, using spare circuit boards, wiring, and a few leftover energy cells. Sweat formed on his forehead as he calibrated the device, relying on intuition more than calculations. The hum of the containment field grew louder, warning him that time was short. "Almost ready," he muttered, testing a prototype signal through one of the drones. The drone responded immediately, adjusting its flight path to compensate. Jax's heart raced. If this worked, he could stabilize the field long enough for Lyra to fix the main system. "Good. You understand," Lyra said, her voice calm but approving. "Human improvisation. It works differently than logic. It works well when speed and flexibility are needed." Jax grinned, despite the tension. "I'm glad someone appreciates it." He pressed a final button. A pulse of energy shot from his device, merging with the containment field. The flickering slowed, and the energy stabilized into a steady glow. Lyra's eyes widened. "Exceptional. You've done well." Before Jax could feel proud, the field began to wobble again. "What now?" he asked, panic rising. Lyra moved quickly, directing the drones in a precise sequence. Jax assisted where he could, holding energy conduits in place, rerouting power, and improvising with every unexpected flicker of the machines. Together, human instinct and alien precision began to work in harmony. Minutes felt like hours. But eventually, the containment field stabilized. The hum quieted, the red alarm stopped, and the station lights returned to normal. Lyra stepped back, breathing a sigh she barely realized she had been holding. "You did well," she said, almost softly. "Most humans would have panicked. Or worse. Made things worse." Jax smiled, though his chest ached from the adrenaline. "I told you. Humans improvise." Lyra's smirk returned, this time slightly warmer. "Indeed, perhaps humans are not as fragile as many of us thought." Word of their success spread quickly through the station. The alien authorities praised Lyra for managing the breach, but also noted the unusual contribution of her human neighbor. Jax felt a strange mix of pride and disbelief. Humans weren't typically acknowledged for competence among advanced alien societies. And yet, here he was, standing beside a brilliant alien scientist, recognized for saving an entire orbital station. That evening, back in his apartment, Jax reflected on the day's events. He realized that the annoyance he felt at Lyra's experiments had transformed into respect. Her brilliance challenged him, her machines pushed him to think creatively, and the containment breach had shown him that humans had something valuable, something even aliens could not ignore. The next morning, he knocked on Lyra's door, expecting the usual smirk, the usual teasing tone. But this time, she opened the door with something different. "You've done well," she said simply, holding out a small device. "It is an enhancement for your improvised stabilizer. Perhaps we can collaborate in the future." Jax's eyes widened. "Collaborate?" Lyra nodded. "Yes. Your instincts, my precision. Together, we may achieve more than either of us alone." Jax grinned. "I like the sound of that." And so, an unexpected partnership began. The humans' resourcefulness and adaptability, combined with the aliens' advanced knowledge, promised discoveries neither had imagined before. Yet, deep down, Jax knew that this was just the beginning. Lyra's experiments would continue, the station would face challenges, and perhaps the most exciting thing was that he was no longer just a human, trying to survive next to a brilliant alien. He was a human who could make a difference, who could rise to the challenge, and who could show the galaxy what humans were capable of. As the stars twinkled outside the panoramic window of his apartment, Jax felt a surge of confidence. Humans were underestimated often, even in a universe full of advanced civilizations, but perhaps it was precisely that underestimation that made them special. And maybe, just maybe, living next to the most annoying neighbor in the galaxy was exactly where he was supposed to be. The station had returned to its usual rhythm after the containment breach. Humans went about their daily routines, aliens continued their precise work, and the hum of machinery filled the corridors as always. But for Jax, nothing felt normal. The events of the past few days had changed something inside him. He had faced a crisis with Lyra, and together, they had prevented disaster. And now, he could not ignore the strange bond forming between him and his neighbor. Lyra, for her part, had begun to treat him differently. No longer just a curious human living next door, he had become an asset. He had something she needed: adaptability, intuition, and a willingness to act when logic alone could not guide her. It was unusual for a Zyrene to admit reliance on humans, but Lyra was beginning to. Their morning began as usual, with a knock on Lyra's door. Jax carried a small toolkit, one that he had been refining overnight. He had also brought along a notebook filled with observations from the previous containment attempt. Lyra opened the door immediately, her eyes scanning the notes. "Your observations are useful," she said. "We may need them today." Jax's heart leapt. "Today? What's happening?" Lyra pointed toward a corridor map. "A new project is underway. A delivery of rare crystalline elements arrived from the mining planet below. They are highly sensitive and require precise handling. The alien protocols are strict. A single mistake could damage the crystals or destabilize the transport system. We are assigned to ensure their safe transfer." Jax raised an eyebrow. "So, what exactly is my role?" "You will monitor and respond to unpredictable situations," Lyra replied. "You, humans, are less predictable than my species. Your creativity is an advantage here." Jax swallowed. He was not sure whether to be proud or nervous. Unpredictable? That was often a polite way of saying reckless. But he also knew that humans were resourceful. They could adapt when things went wrong, and that might be exactly what the mission needed. The transport system was a series of elevated corridors with anti-gravity rails. The crystalline elements floated in secure containers, moving slowly through the station. Everything appeared calm at first. The drones hovered alongside the containers, scanning for any irregularities. Lyra adjusted her control panel, making minute tweaks to ensure balance. Then, a small vibration ran through the rails. It was subtle at first, barely noticeable, but Jax recognized it immediately. He tapped on his portable scanner. The readings spiked. One of the containers was slightly misaligned, and the stabilization drones were reacting slowly. "Problem detected," Jax said quickly. "The container on rail 4 is wobbling." Lyra's eyes narrowed. Humans notice things quickly. Good. We must act now. Jax dashed ahead, following the rail system. He had no formal training for alien transport systems, but he relied on his instincts. Observing the drones, he realized they were overcompensating for the wobble, which could cause a cascade failure. Thinking fast, he deployed a small, improvised energy pulse, something he had tested during the containment breach. The container steadied immediately. Lyra's jaw tightened in approval. "Impressive. You have learned from our previous encounter." Jax grinned. "Experience counts." They continued down the corridors, working together seamlessly. Lyra monitored the main control panel, calculating precise adjustments, while Jax responded to unpredictable shifts, using human intuition and improvised tools to stabilize the containers. The crystalline elements glowed softly in their containment fields, delicate and beautiful, yet full of potential energy. Suddenly, a transport drone malfunctioned. Its anti-gravity lift failed, and the container it carried began to tilt dangerously. Jax froze for a fraction of a second before springing into action. He guided the container with a temporary support pulse from his device, while Lyra recalibrated the drone's systems remotely. "Human reflexes are fascinating," Lyra said quietly. She did not often praise others, but this time her voice held genuine respect. "You're welcome," Jax replied, trying to hide his pride. The operation continued for hours, requiring constant adjustment. The humans and Zirine usually worked in separate areas, but the crystalline transport demanded coordination. Jax realized that his unpredictability complemented Lyra's precision. Where her species relied on logic and patterns, humans relied on intuition and improvisation. Together, they formed a balance neither could achieve alone. During a short break, Lyra studied Jax closely. "You adapt quickly," she said. "Your species' flexibility is remarkable. It is admirable." Jax laughed lightly. "And here I thought you aliens only noticed rules and patterns." Lyra tilted her head. "We do. But humans defy them in useful ways. It is not something I expected to value so highly." Their conversation was interrupted by another alert. A minor energy fluctuation in the rail system threatened to disrupt the remaining containers. This time, the problem was more complex. The rails themselves had shifted slightly due to thermal expansion. Lyra's calculations were perfect for standard conditions, but the station was not standard. "We cannot use standard procedures," she admitted. "We will need improvisation." Jax's heart raced. "Then let's improvise." Together, they worked. Jax climbed along the anti-gravity rails, placing temporary stabilizers he had quickly assembled. Lyra coordinated the drones, adjusting their hover patterns in real time. The containers wobbled dangerously at one point, but Jax managed to redirect their energy pulses, keeping everything balanced. By the time the last container reached its secure storage bay, both of them were breathing heavily. Sweat dampened Jax's shirt, and Lyra's usually composed expression showed a rare hint of tension. They had done it. The station authorities arrived shortly after, checking the systems and confirming that the crystalline elements were unharmed. They looked at Lyra, then at Jax, and nodded in approval. Recognition for a human in alien circles was rare. But Jax felt it deeply. "You did well," Lyra said. Her smirk softened into something like admiration. "Your instincts saved the final container." Jax shrugged modestly. "Guess human intuition has its uses." They walked back toward their apartments, the soft hum of the station surrounding them. The silence was comfortable, filled with mutual respect rather than annoyance. Jax realized that working with Lyra had taught him more than any engineering course or training manual. He had learned that humans were underestimated for a reason. They were unpredictable, flexible, and resourceful. And that very unpredictability made them valuable even in a universe of beings far more advanced than humans. Lyra paused at her door. "Tomorrow, we will review the transport data," she said. "Perhaps we can improve the system further. Your input will be helpful." Jax grinned, looking forward to it. As he returned to his apartment, Jax thought about the strange turn his life had taken. Only a week ago, he had been frustrated with the most annoying neighbor in the galaxy. Now, he had become her partner in one of the station's most critical operations, and he realized something else. Humans had a place in this universe not because they were the strongest, or the fastest, or the most logical, but because they could adapt, think differently, and rise to challenges that others could not. That night, as he gazed out at the endless asteroid field beyond the station, Jax felt a sense of pride. Not arrogance, pride. He knew that humans had value. They could survive, contribute, and even lead when others doubted them. Lyra, on her side of the wall, no doubt reviewed her data and adjusted her experiments. Jax imagined her smirk, softened with something like respect, and he smiled. For the first time since moving to the Orvex station, he felt a sense of belonging. He was more than a human in a galaxy of advanced civilizations. He was a human who could make a difference, who could think outside the rules, and who could turn even a neighborly annoyance into an opportunity. The stars outside twinkled, distant and eternal, but Jax felt connected to them, not because he understood all their mysteries, but because he knew that humans, stubborn, curious, inventive humans, had the ability to reach them, one clever solution at a time. And as the night hummed softly around the station, Jax knew that whatever challenges came next, he would face them. With Lyra by his side, and the human spirit guiding him, he felt ready for anything. The Orvex orbital station had settled into a rare moment of calm. The containment breach and the crystalline transport incident had reminded everyone that life here was unpredictable. But for Jax, there was no calm. At least, not inside his mind. He knew that whatever challenges lay ahead would test both his ingenuity and his partnership with Lyra. That morning, as sunlight or what passed for sunlight in orbit filtered through the station's panoramic windows, Jax checked his toolkit and notes. His small apartment, once just a living space, had become a workshop of ideas. Drones hovered quietly near the ceiling, energy pulses hummed faintly from small devices, and the walls were lined with diagrams and schematics. A sharp knock broke his concentration. Lyra's head appeared in the doorway, her expression unusually serious. "Jax," she said, her voice calm but urgent. "We have a situation." "What kind of situation?" Jax asked, already feeling the familiar thrill of problem-solving rush through him. "An external asteroid survey team sent back data," Lyra explained. "They detected an unexpected energy fluctuation in one of the nearby asteroid clusters. Preliminary analysis shows it could interfere with the station's navigation and communication systems. It is not dangerous yet, but if ignored, it could escalate quickly." Jax swallowed. "So, we need to fix it before it gets worse?" "Yes," Lyra said simply, "and standard protocols are too slow." Jax nodded, feeling both excitement and responsibility. Humans thrived in situations where logic alone failed. Improvisation, intuition, and adaptability were traits no alien system could predict, and that made them valuable. They suited up and boarded the station's maintenance shuttle. As they maneuvered through the corridors of the station, Lyra explained the plan. "We will need to deploy field stabilizers near the source of the fluctuation. The sensors indicate an irregular pattern. Only human intuition can help anticipate the fluctuations before they reach dangerous levels." Jax listened carefully, noting her calm precision. She trusted him with decisions that could affect the entire station, a level of trust he hadn't expected so soon. When they arrived at the observation platform, the asteroid cluster stretched before them, sparkling like scattered diamonds against the blackness of space. Small pulses of energy emanated from one particular asteroid, unpredictable in pattern, yet mesmerizing to watch. Lyra gestured toward the energy readings. "We cannot predict the next fluctuation with pure calculation. Jax, you will monitor and respond. I will coordinate the stabilizers." Jax took his position at the control console. His human intuition immediately noticed a rhythm, a subtle pattern in the energy pulses that the sensors failed to register. He quickly adjusted the timing of a portable stabilizer, using his improvised device from previous incidents. The asteroid's energy pulse responded, weakening slightly. Lyra's eyes widened. "You predicted the fluctuation. Remarkable. Human intuition is indeed effective." They worked together in silence, each movement precise, each adjustment measured. Hours passed, yet time felt like minutes. Jax found himself thinking in patterns, but also trusting instinct. Lyra relied on his decisions, even when they deviated from the logic of her species. Together, they formed a rhythm neither could achieve alone. Suddenly, a larger pulse emerged, stronger than any before. The stabilizers struggled to contain it. Jax's heart pounded, but he did not panic. He remembered the containment breach, the crystalline transport, and every moment he had risen to a challenge. He had learned that humans succeeded not through brute force, but through adaptability. He tapped into a subtle adjustment he had devised overnight, a combination of energy pulses timed to mimic the asteroid's natural rhythm. The stabilizers responded perfectly, resonating with the asteroid's energy and neutralizing the fluctuation. Lyra's eyes met his, and she nodded in acknowledgement. "You have exceeded expectations," she said, her voice softer now, almost admiring. Jax smiled, feeling a rare warmth. "Guess humans have a way of making sense of chaos." After the asteroid cluster stabilized, they returned to the station. The authorities conducted a full review and praised Lyra for her expertise, but also specifically mentioned Jax. The human had anticipated patterns, improvised devices, and prevented a potential disaster. Recognition for a human was rare, yet undeniable. Later, back in their apartments, Jax reflected on the journey. From the first irritating thumps of Lyra's experiments to the tense coordination of the containment breach, the human intuition he had relied upon had proved its value. Every challenge had strengthened his skills, and more importantly, earned him respect in a world that often underestimated humans. Lyra appeared at his door that evening, holding a small note. She did not smile, but her eyes carried something different this time. "Read this," she said, and stepped back. Jax opened the note. It simply read, "Perhaps humans are more useful than I thought. Collaboration may yield more than either of us alone." He laughed softly. "Not bad for the most annoying neighbor in the galaxy," he muttered to himself. Lyra smirked faintly, hearing him. "Annoyance can be relative," she said, before returning to her apartment. Jax realized that humans were often underestimated not because they were weak or unremarkable, but because their strengths were subtle, hidden in creativity, perseverance, and unpredictability. Lyra had seen it firsthand now, and he knew she would respect it. Over the following weeks, their partnership deepened. They improved transport systems, optimized energy stabilizers, and even developed small drones capable of adapting to unforeseen conditions. Machines that mirrored human improvisation. Each success reinforced the human-alien collaboration, and Jax grew more confident in the unique value humans brought to the galaxy. The station itself began to change subtly. Humans were no longer seen as merely passengers or minor contributors. Their ingenuity, curiosity, and willingness to act in unpredictable circumstances earned them a new level of respect. Jax noticed it in the glances of other residents, in the way Lyra now consulted him before making adjustments, and in his own growing pride. One evening, Jax stood by his apartment window, gazing out at the distant stars. He thought of the countless possibilities, ahead exploration, discovery, and challenges, yet unknown. Humans were small in numbers compared to the advanced species around them, yet their spirit, adaptability, and determination made them invaluable. Lyra joined him at the window. "You understand the importance of what you've done," she said. "Not all humans would rise to such challenges." Jax shrugged, smiling. "I just do what makes sense, and I guess humans have a way of finding solutions where others cannot." Lyra studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Indeed. And for that reason, humans are remarkable." Jax felt a warmth in his chest. Recognition from someone as brilliant and precise as Lyra was more rewarding than he had expected. Not only had he survived the initial annoyances, the chaos, and the crises, he had proven that humans could rise above, adapt, and excel where others struggled. The next day, the station announced new collaborative projects between human engineers and alien specialists. Jax and Lyra were assigned leadership roles, working together to enhance station operations, design new stabilization systems, and mentor younger humans and aliens. Their teamwork became an example for the entire station. A demonstration that collaboration between different species, combining logic with intuition, could achieve extraordinary results. As Jax returned to his apartment that evening, he thought back to the first day he had complained about the most annoying neighbor. He smiled, realizing how far things had come. What had started as frustration had turned into opportunity. What had been annoyance had turned into respect. And humans, persistent, clever, and unpredictable humans, had earned a place of honor, not through superiority, but through the qualities that made them uniquely human. Lyra's smirk appeared in his memory, now almost friendly rather than teasing. Jax chuckled. Perhaps the universe underestimated humans because it had never seen how far they could go when given the chance. And as he watched the stars glimmer against the dark expanse of space, Jax felt a quiet confidence. Humans were not just survivors, they were innovators, problem solvers, and partners in a galaxy full of wonders. The galaxy had challenged them. Humans had responded. And in that response, they had proven that sometimes being underestimated was the greatest advantage of all. Jax returned to his workstation, tools and notes ready for the next challenge. Lyra, working alongside him in her apartment, gave a rare nod of approval. Together, human ingenuity and alien precision had transformed challenges into achievements, and the story of the most annoying neighbor had changed forever from irritation to collaboration, from conflict to respect, from underestimation to admiration. Jax smiled, realizing that the universe was vast, unpredictable, and full of opportunity, and that humans, with their ingenuity and heart, were ready for anything.